Here we go. When I left New York, it was about 2 a.m. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't have some long goodbye. I just left. I grabbed everything that actually mattered to me: my ID, my photo albums, my electronics, my jewelry, and of course, my bags, and I walked out. Before I closed the door, I left a note. It said, "Take whatever you want. It's free. Just don't mess up the apartment." And I meant that. At that point, I didn't care about anything I was leaving behind. I had already outgrown that life. I drove straight through the night. I barely stopped, and when I did, it was only during the day. I had way too many valuables in that truck to feel comfortable sleeping anywhere. So at night, I just pushed through. Windows down, music blasting, singing like I was auditioning for something, just trying to stay awake. It took me about 24 hours to get down to Florida, and by the time I got to West Palm Beach, I was exhausted. But at the same time, I felt wide awake, like my whole life had just reset. I'm a writer. I write psychological and horror stories, and I've been doing it for about 5 years. Before that, I worked regular jobs like everybody else. I worked at Starbucks, I worked in a college helping students apply for financial aid, just normal things. But when I started writing, everything changed. And when I say I did well, I did very well. By the time I left New York, I had about $3.5 million in the bank, and I had just cleared a check for $270,000. My editor had just approved my latest manuscript, and everything in my career was moving fast. Too fast for the life I was still living. When I got to West Palm Beach, I checked into this bed and breakfast I had found online. It was owned by a guy named Chris and his husband. Chris was really friendly, almost overly friendly, but in a welcoming way. He showed me around the property and kept saying, "If you need anything at all, just let me know." I smiled and thanked him, but I already knew I wasn't going to need anything. I like handling things myself. The room I rented was perfect. It was separate from the rest of the house, right by the pool with its own private entrance. It had a king bed, a walk-in closet, a bathroom, a little fridge, a microwave, and even a small private patio. It felt like my own space, not like I was staying in someone else's home. It was $1,900 a night, and honestly, I didn't even think twice about it. It took me at least 30 trips to bring everything in from my truck. I didn't want help, especially not with the kind of things I had. My bags alone. I wasn't about to have anyone looking too closely at those. Once everything was inside, I just sat down for a second and let it all hit me. Then I got up, took a long shower, used my lotion, put on some perfume, threw on a t-shirt and biker shorts, and started organizing everything. And the weird part is, I wasn't tired anymore. By the time the sun started coming up, I was already outside by the pool with my laptop, writing. That's just how I am. When I'm in a new space, I get inspired. People started coming out of their rooms, one by one, grabbing coffee, walking around, and I could feel them looking at me. Not in a rude way, just curious. But nobody said anything beyond "good morning," which I appreciated. I stayed in my own world, finished what I was working on, and then started looking at houses online. A few days later, I found this coffee shop that I ended up going to every morning. It became my little routine. One day, I was standing in line, and I could feel this man behind me. You know that feeling when someone wants to say something, but they're waiting for the right moment? It was that. Then he finally said, "Can I buy your coffee?" I turned around, looked at him for a second, and said, "I can buy my own coffee, but thank you," with a little smile. And instead of getting awkward or backing off, he just handed his card to the cashier and said, "I'll take my usual." I liked that. He introduced himself as Donnell, and when he asked if he could walk me to my car, I told him I was actually staying. He smiled and said, "Perfect, let's sit." And we did. He wasn't my usual type. I'm used to men with a little edge to them, a little chaos. But he was different. Calm, put together, handsome in a way that felt steady. He gave me that Idris Elba type of vibe, like a real man. After that, we started seeing each other every day. Same coffee shop, same time. He would come a little earlier just to sit with me before he had to go to work. We started going on walks at the park after he got off, going out to dinner, catching movies, just spending real time together. And I move fast. I always have. I don't believe in dragging things out just to find out later that it's not what I want. I'd rather see everything up front and make a decision early. So yeah, we got close, fast. But I didn't invite him to my place right away. For the first 3 weeks, he didn't step foot in that room. I needed to see who he was without access, without comfort, without everything being easy. And when we did finally cross that line, yeah, he knew exactly what he was doing. Around week 4, I started seriously looking for a house. I found this huge place in West Palm Beach, about 10,000 square feet, listed at $1.2 million. And Donnell got really involved in the process. He started showing me different neighborhoods, telling me which areas were better than others, driving me around, helping me look at properties. I actually liked having him there for that. It felt natural. He even invited me to a family cookout one weekend, and when I showed up, I could feel the energy shift. The way they were looking at me, the way they were talking to me, it was like I was someone important. But I already knew what it was. It wasn't just me. It was how I carried myself, how I looked, how I dressed. To him, I was already a trophy. So one day, I decided to test him. I told him to meet me at the mall, Saturday afternoon. I pulled up in my G-Wagon right next to his car, and when he came over and opened my door, I stepped out like I always do, put together, polished, smelling good, everything exactly how I like it. We walked straight into Neiman Marcus, and I went directly to the YSL section. I looked around for a minute, picked out a bag I liked, and said, "Yeah, this is the one." The sales associate came over smiling, but she was talking to him, not me. I stepped in front of her slightly and said, "Actually, you can help me. I'd like this bag. Do you have a new one in the back?" She apologized and went to get it. When she came back, she rang it up. "That'll be $4,822. I didn't reach for anything. I just stood there, looking at the lip gloss display, waiting. And he paid. No hesitation. After that, we walked out, and I thanked him like it was nothing, like it was expected. And honestly, it kind of was. Everything about him felt right. Too right. And I didn't realize it yet, but that's usually where the problem starts. When my stay at the bed and breakfast was coming to an end, I added another 4 weeks. I wasn't rushing anything. I had the money, I had the time, and I wanted everything to be exactly how I envisioned it before I moved into my new home. During that time, me and Donnell got even closer. We started going furniture shopping, not buying, just looking. I made that very clear. "I don't need help buying anything," I told him one day while we were walking through a showroom, "but you can help me visualize." He smiled. "I like that. I like being part of it." And I let him be, just enough. The day I moved into my house, that was the first time Donnell ever stepped foot into my space. And the look on his face? It was the same look he had the first day he saw my truck. That quiet, wide-eyed, I hit the jackpot look. But this time, it was amplified. Because now it wasn't just a car, it was everything. He helped me move everything in, but I started noticing something in the way he talked. Little questions. "So, how much does writing actually pay you? You sure you want to go this big? You don't think this is a lot?" At first, I brushed it off, but then it kept happening, over and over. Mornings weren't at the coffee shop anymore. They were in my kitchen. Big marble floors, marble countertops, sunlight pouring in through the bay window, my Samsung appliances lined up perfectly. We'd stand there, coffee in hand, like it was normal, like this was ours. But I never forgot. This was mine. I was still building my home the way I wanted. One of the 5 bedrooms? Turning it into a luxury walk-in closet. Custom shelving, island in the middle, washer and dryer installed right inside it. Hidden safe. Everything designed around me. He watched all of it happen. And at first, he was impressed, supportive, present. But then, a few months passed, and something changed. He stopped looking at me the same, stopped moving the same, stopped treating me like something special. We didn't go out anymore. We didn't sit on the couch watching movies. We didn't laugh the same. And when I called him, half the time he didn't answer. And when he did, "Yeah, I'm busy. I'll talk to you when I get home." That tone, that dismissive tone. And I started looking at him differently. Because wait, where is the admiration? Where is the energy you had for me? We started arguing over things that had nothing to do with him. "Another bag?" he asked one day. "Yes, another bag," I said calmly. "You don't need all that." And I just stared at him. Because who are you talking to? I even told him I was thinking about buying a Range Rover. And he got irritated. Not excited, not supportive. Irritated. And that's when it hit me. He thought being with me would elevate him. But what actually happened? I kept elevating, and he didn't. Then I started noticing more. He wasn't leaving at his normal work hours. Actually, I don't even think he was working anymore. One day, we were coming back from his mom's house. We pulled off, and suddenly he said, "Wait, I forgot something at my sister's. Spin back." He got out the car, left his phone, and for the first time, I looked. There was a name, Kima. And when I opened those messages, everything made sense. She wasn't just somebody. She was his girlfriend, pregnant, and she knew about me. I didn't react. I didn't say anything. I just put the phone back and sat there, quiet. When he got back in the car after going into his sister's house, I didn't say a word. I didn't look at him any different. I didn't ask any questions. I didn't even bring up the fact that he had been gone longer than he said he would be. I just drove, and he sat there like everything was normal, like I hadn't just seen exactly what I saw. He started talking about something random, something small, something that didn't even matter, and I responded just enough to keep the conversation going. But mentally, I was already somewhere else. I was replaying every message I read, every tone, every word, every lie. When we got back to the house, he went inside like he always did, kicked his shoes off, grabbed something to drink, and sat down like he belonged there. And I stood there for a second, just watching him. Not emotionally, not hurt, not confused, just observing. Because once you see something for what it is, you can't unsee it. And everything about him looked different now. Over the next couple of days, I didn't change anything on the outside. I still spoke to him the same. I still moved the same. I still let him think everything was exactly how it had been. But inside, I was done. Completely done. There was no fixing it, no conversation needed, no explanation I cared to hear. It was over the moment I realized I had been played in my own space, in my own bed, in a life that I built by myself. The more I paid attention, the more obvious everything became. The constant texting, the way his phone never left his hand, the calls that would suddenly get silenced the second they came through. And every time, like clockwork, he would come up with a reason to step outside. "I'll be right back," he'd say casually, grabbing his keys like it was nothing. And then a few minutes later, he'd come back in with some new plan, some excuse, something he had to do later. One night, he walked back in and said, "Yeah, Friday I'm gonna be out late. I gotta help my sister with something. Don't wait up." And I just looked at him for a second and nodded like it made sense. But in my head, I was already 10 steps ahead, because now I knew exactly what those little plans really were. I didn't argue. I didn't question him. I didn't press him for details. That part of me was gone. Instead, I just watched. I listened. I paid attention. And I let him get comfortable thinking he still had control over the situation. Then one day, while he was out, I packed everything he had in my house. Every pair of shoes, every piece of clothing, every little thing he left there trying to slowly make it his space too. I gathered it all up and took it straight to his mother's house. I didn't knock, I didn't call, I didn't announce myself. I left it right there where it would be seen, turned around, and drove off. When I got back home, I changed the locks. Not just a simple lock change either. I upgraded everything. Keypad entry, fingerprint access, security system fully armed, cameras already in place covering every angle of the property. I made sure there was no confusion about who could and could not walk into my space. Later that night, I waited. Right around 2:30 in the morning, just like I expected, he pulled into the driveway. I saw it on the camera before I even heard the car. He walked up to the door like nothing had changed, reached for the handle, and tried his key. When it didn't work, he tried again, a little harder this time, like maybe it was just stuck. Then his body language shifted, confusion first, then irritation. My phone rang immediately. "Yo, what the hell?" he said as soon as I answered. "Why the door not opening?" I leaned back on my couch, completely calm. "How was your night?" I asked him. There was a pause. "What? What are you talking about?" I let that silence sit for a second before I said it. "I know about Kima." Everything went quiet on the other end. Then came the confusion, the denial, the acting. "I don't know what you're talking about. Who is—" "Don't do that," I cut him off. "Don't insult me like that." He tried to switch it up, tried to sound calm, tried to regain control of the conversation. "All right, even if you've seen something, it's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think," I said, still calm. "And you know it is." Outside, I could see him pacing back and forth, running his hand over his head, trying to figure out his next move. He walked back up to the door and tried it again, like somehow it was going to magically open for him this time. "The locks are changed?" he asked, his voice raising slightly now. "Yes," I said, "they are." "So you just gonna lock me out like that?" I laughed a little, not even trying to hide it. "You locked yourself out." That's when the anger came out, the name-calling, the accusations, the attempts to flip everything on me. He went from trying to explain to trying to intimidate, raising his voice, talking crazy, acting like I did something wrong. And I just listened, because none of it mattered. After a while, he realized the door wasn't opening, no matter how much he knocked or yelled or tried to force it. He stood there for a minute, looking up at the house, probably hoping I would come outside, probably thinking I would break and let him in. But I didn't move. Eventually, he walked back to his car, got in, and drove off. And just like that, he was out of my life. Over the next few days, my phone didn't stop ringing. Calls, texts, voicemails, back to back. Apologies, excuses, "I love you," "I messed up," "just talk to me," all of it. And I ignored every single one. Not because I was hurt, but because I was done. There's a difference. Now for Kima. As soon as I found out about her, I texted my homegirl from New York. She can find out anything about anyone. So she looked into Donnell to find out who Kima is. And she came back with all the info. Her full name, address, job, car, social media, everything. I know this drove him crazy. But to me, it was kind of fun. I was already over him. This was lightweight compared to my past. But he still has to pay. They both do. So I started with her. A few weeks after changing the locks, I went by her house to see what I was dealing with. She didn't have cameras in her home, neither did her neighbors. It wasn't the best neighborhood, and I spotted where she parks her car at night. So I dressed like a man, made sure you couldn't see any of my hair anyway, just to make sure. I took nails, a pack of nails, I got some Gorilla Tape, and I placed nails head side on the tape, nail side up. I went to her car, she had a Toyota Corolla, and she worked at a clothing store and rented her home, so I figured this would be a real inconvenience in her budget, and expecting a baby at that. So I put the tape strip with the nails under her 2 driver's side tires, front and back. Then I took my window buster and pressed it into her driver's side window and also her windshield. Then I went home, took a shower, and got in my bed to watch Housewives of Atlanta and wait for the phone calls. I waited, yet they never came. Not about that anyway, just the normal calls and messages. He's sorry, he loves me, he will do anything to get me back. Please call him. I ignored it. Then, a few days later, I went back by there in the middle of the night. Her car was still exactly where I left it. I guess they didn't have money to get it fixed. She did tape up the windows with plastic and tape. So the next day, I went to Georgia and went to a pet store, purchased 3 bags full of water bugs, and 2 python snakes. I'm not afraid of snakes. I actually like them, thank goodness. I told them I had large turtles and I feed them water bugs. I went to her house that night, poked a small hole in the plastic, and stuck the opening of 1 bag in the hole, and shook all the bugs out into her car. Then the 2nd bag, then the 3rd. Then I taped the hole back up. Then I went up to her door quietly and opened the mail slot in the door and put the snakes into the mail slot. I left, not planning on going back there again. It would be way too risky after that. She will probably go to the police, I figured, and get cameras. So I planned to find a new way to torture her. But after that, something even better happened. At some point, I listened to one of the voicemails he left. His voice sounded different this time. Lower, slower. Not angry, not defensive, just defeated. "Hey, I know you probably don't want to hear from me," he started. "But something happened. Kima, she lost the baby." I didn't react. I just kept listening. "It's been crazy over here. I don't really have anyone to talk to. My family, they're mad at me. They don't even want to hear it. And I know I messed up with you. I know that. But I don't have anywhere else to go right now." There was a pause before he said the next part. "I was hoping maybe I could come stay with you, just for a little while, get back on my feet. It's just me now. There's no baby. It could just be us again." I actually laughed when I heard that, because it actually worked. Stress is a real bitch when you're pregnant. I finally saw him clearly. I called him back. He answered on the first ring. "T, hey." "Donnell," I said, cutting him off. He went quiet immediately. "I heard your message. And yeah, that's unfortunate. It really is." I paused for a second, just long enough for him to think maybe I was about to say something else. "But let me make something very clear to you," I said, my tone steady. "I will never get back with you. Ever." He tried to speak, but I didn't give him the chance. "And it's not even because you lied," I continued. "It's not because you were dealing with somebody else. It's not even because you thought you could play me." I let that sit for a second. "It's because you don't understand consequences," I said. "And you definitely wouldn't survive making that mistake with me a second time." There was nothing left for him to say after that. And for me, there was nothing left to feel. Because by the time he lost everything, I had already walked away.